we have to talk about Bam Rodriguez right now because he looked unreal, taking care of a legend tonight in El Gallo, Juan Francisco Estrada, with the knockout victory in the 7th round. My God, what were your thoughts on watching this fight?
Jesus Christ. And he got dropped. And then it was a flash knockdown, but there's so many things here. So we thought that Bam would probably get the decision. And this is the kind of thing that we also talked about though. Like there's a possibility, especially with Juan Francisco Estrada having the long layoff and Bam really growing into his power. He's still very young. He's going to be talked about on pound for pound lists, especially after this, because he is building a hell of a resume for somebody who's barely in his mid 20s. Um, Look, man, like Bam Rodriguez is that dude. And we were reassured that tonight because there were some worries about, like, before the Sonny Edwards bout, because he had a not lackluster performance. That's a little strong, but people have the high expectations, and you don't want those sort of pressures to sort of mitigate how you look at something or whatever the case may be. I think with Bam Rodriguez though tonight, the resiliency, like I like the fact that, and we talked about this with Inoue and Luis Neri. I like the fact that Inoue got dropped, got back up, and destroyed this dude. Same thing with Bam Rodriguez here. Got dropped, got back up. Like your favorite fighters have all been dropped pretty much. Every single one of them. Your favorite fighters, a lot of them have losses. Bam Rodriguez is not lost yet. Um, Pound for pound, we're gonna talk about that. But God, what a performance against he did this against the best guy in the division, the lineal champion, the WBC champion, who, granted, coming off a long layoff, whatever, and he floored him with a body shot. You and I, Shantelle, love body shots. Like we love body shot knockouts, and this was one of those where you felt that shit right away. Juan Francisco Estrada rolled over, and that was it.
I clutched my body when I saw that body shot. I was like, oh, like I could feel it. That was just such a phenomenal performance from Van Rodriguez because he beat a legend in El Gallo. And El Gallo had the fans there. I mean, you could hear the chanting of Gallo in the background.
Mhm.
It looked like an amazing atmosphere, but nonetheless, I feel like Bam Rodriguez rose to the occasion. We go back to, I'm not going to say that it was a lackluster performance because I think he got hurt in this performance against Christian Hernandez.
Yeah,
That's the fight where they're saying he got injured in that fight. It
yeah.
turned out to be a unanimous decision. I think a lot of people thought that he would get the stoppage or the knockout in that fight. So leading up to Sonny Edwards, there was so much talk, and some people were even riding for Sonny Edwards in that fight. But Bam Rodriguez, he had a stellar performance against Sonny Edwards, and then to come back and drop El Gallo and get the victory and get dropped in that fight. Like in that 4th round, I had El Gallo winning that round until he got dropped. And I was like, oh, wow. And then when Bam got dropped, he got right back up and he looked amazing in that round. I was like, did Bam really get dropped? Because he didn't look like he got dropped. And if he didn't get dropped in that round, you would have thought he won that round,
Yeah,
right? Because a point
thousand
wouldn't have
percent.
been taken away. But
Mhm.
nonetheless, I thought he fought incredible. I think that he rose to the occasion. I believe he's only 24 years old. So the fact that Bam came back and was able to put on this performance and get the knockout victory in the 7th round. Like this is
Yeah.
one of the best performances of the year. And I love the fact that he got dropped as well. And I think he said that as well. Like he liked that he got dropped because then you know that you have to go through things in the ring. And now that he has that experience, the comeback was sick. Like, yeah, he got dropped and we didn't expect that, but his comeback was absolutely amazing. And shout out to Juan Francisco Estrada because at during that fight, I was like, should they stop the fight? Because there were a few times in that round, and I think in the 3rd round, I was just like, man, he does not look good. Like this looks terrible. And he was coming off a long layoff, and this is a guy, he's a champion. And he was able to do this to one of the best guys in the division. It was one of the best performances I've seen all year.
And the fact that we're talking about a performance of the year contender for somebody who was actually dropped in the fight lets you know how special the performance was for Pam Rodriguez. And fight of the year candidate, fight of the night for sure. That includes everything I saw on the ESPN card, on the UFC card. This was the best fight that I saw, absolutely. We have a lot of comments. We should probably get to them on this. Let's go from early on. Uh, let's go with Jesus first. Why not? Because Jesus is always coming at Canelo's neck. Now this is a real fight, Estrada versus Bam, unlike fake Nilo fights. Um,
Jesus always brings the heat. Thanks for rocking with us tonight, Jesus. We appreciate you.
VSAE Lee says, I don't care about any other fights. Bam is the man. Honestly, like I'm kind of with you. Like I don't even want to talk about Teofimo Lopez like that, but we're going to because this
When
is our job. This is what we have to do.
I'm not gonna lie to you. As soon as like the fight was over, I was like, we could save Teo for the end. Because like I didn't even talk about that with you before we got on, but I was like, we could save that fight till the end, even though it was a pretty entertaining fight, more entertaining than I thought it was gonna be.
A lot
But
of people were bored. I think it's just
I
because it was so one-sided.
but you know what?
Steve Claggett tried his best, but we're not gonna talk
He
about
did.
that right now. We're not
Yeah,
gonna talk about that right
I was
now.
gonna say let's stick with Bam and El Gallo. Like for him to have this performance against a veteran and do that to El Gallo,
Damn.
incredible. Like, and we got to go into this now, Jesus, because Bryan and I were talking about this before we got on here. Bam
Okay.
is now top 5 on the pound for pound list. When you take a look at his resume and what he's done, he's definitely entered the chat for that
Are you putting
conversation.
him in the top 5 right now?
I'm putting it on the top 10. Like
Okay,
he's
okay.
entered, he's
That's fine.
there.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
he's on the list after this performance because that's how high of regard that I hold Juan Francisco Estrada in, like one of the best guys in the division, man.
The
And for
best.
him to
Yeah.
have that performance against him, it was incredible. This is what I was not expecting. And I don't know if it's also like the layoff and his age. Like, do you think age had a little bit to do with it? Because Estrada took a lot of shots, didn't give up, got dropped. Sometimes you just can't recover from a liver shot.
We should note that it's been reported that Juan Francisco Estrada plans on invoking the rematch clause, so we should see this fight again, perhaps even this year, I would say, later this year, being that Bam Rodriguez has only fought once this year, as is Estrada. So hopefully
Probably
we get
fall
this.
time,
Yeah,
maybe fall
hopefully
time. Yeah.
November, December, something like that. Nice end of the year. I mean, God, that's going to be a very anticipated rematch. And I'm interested to see how Estrada comes back from that, given that, to answer your question, the layoff had to have been some sort of a factor. Like there's a 10-year age gap. Bam Rodriguez, 10 years younger. He's moving up in weight to a weight class that he had already been the champion of, this same exact WBC title. And on top of that, Juan Francisco Estrada had a year more than Bam Rodriguez away from the ring. Could have worded that better, but you guys know what I'm saying. Bam Rodriguez was out of the ring for 6 months, and Juan Francisco Estrada 18 months, year and a half leading up to this fight. So that's just tough to overcome. That being said, still got a
But
knockdown, had some moments like, and I do think in the rematch, I would expect him to be a little bit more competitive, particularly in the early rounds where he started off slow tonight, probably because of the age and the layoff in particular.
yeah, like when you're that much older, it's like basketball, right? Like when you get older, you need to like warm up a little bit longer than you do when you're young. Like when you're young, you're just like, hey, I'm gonna hoop. You don't need to stretch.
You
You
don't
don't
need
need
to stretch
to,
it.
right? Like when you're old, like you bring out the foam roller, like you're like
Yeah,
on the court, making sure you don't pull a hammy or nothing like that. So
yeah.
I think it's like the same thing for boxing. Like it takes you longer to warm up. And El Gallo has always been a guy that's been able to really get it going in the second half of the fight. So when the 6th round happened and he dropped Bam, I was like, oh, okay, like maybe he's gonna have a pretty good 7th round. And he was. Like he was having a good 7th round. I'm like, yo, he's gonna turn it on. I'm like tweeting of like, oh, it's about to get crazy. It's a 7th round. Boom, Bam hits him with the liver shot. And he gets dropped. And I'm like, it's over. It's over. So my question to you, Bryan, is what is next for Bam Rodriguez? You said he said something in the post fight interview that you liked.
Because people, and I'm going to throw this comment up since we're on the topic, and we're going to throw some more comments up. So keep them coming, especially on this topic. We will get to Teofimo later because we have to, but we want to spend a little bit more time on this. VSA Lee, I don't care about it. No, not this comment. It was the other one. I don't like how, because you started with I don't and I don't. So I got tripped up there. Sorry about that. I don't like how they kept asking about Bam versus Inoue, though. And I got to say, like, I don't love it either. And I like that Bam's answer was basically like, it's a fantasy fight. I need to work my way up to that. He understands that. And then, from a weight class standpoint, obviously, it's also not really in the cards yet. Bam Rodriguez needs to continue to develop. Maybe we're a couple years away. You also don't want that to happen when Inoue is too old, if it's going to happen. But we all think that Inoue is going to be a featherweight at some point, so he'll get even further away from Bam Rodriguez. But we'll see. I don't know if that's not a fight that I necessarily like need right now, because there's enough good fights to be made. We're gonna get Bam Estrada too, it looks like. We'll see what Inoue's next fight is going to be, because that actually hasn't been confirmed yet, although we're expecting to see him again before the end of the year. But I do agree. Like I don't think Bam versus Inoue or Inoue versus Tank, like these are fantasy fights that to me Crawford and Canelo is still that also. We could talk again after Crawford's debut at 154 coming up, but
Well, we're going to
these
talk
are all
about one
fantasy fights.
fantasy fight later on in the show. Teofimo Lopez and Bud fantasy fight at this point, right?
More realistic, but
Yeah, but I mean, still kind of after tonight. I don't know if he's ready for something like that. But for
hmm.
me, I like talking about the fantasy fights, but I like what Bam said as well. Like he's got to work his way up to that. And if he does move up to 118 and fight Nakatani, that's a blockbuster fight.
Speaking of Jay comments, Nakatani can't stop Bam at bantamweight. Bam will become two-weight undisputed if he wants to. I don't know about if he wants to. That's a little tough, but I mean, listen, the upsets happen in these lighter weight classes. Like this happens throughout the court. Like all of us were shocked when Chocolatito finally lost at his peak. He's had a couple other losses since. Like these sort of things happen in these weight classes. But Bam, right now, yeah, he clearly looks like, at least in this weight class and the weight class before, he looks like he's the best in each of them. At some point, he'll move up again. I do think that he's going to be a 3, maybe 4 division world champion at some point. Maybe Bam gets to featherweight at some point. Like that's not like crazy if he continues to develop the way he has. But for now, we can just focus on where he's at. We have other comments here. Robin B31. People underestimated Sonny Edwards. We talked about this. This was the unification that Bam won in December. Hence, did not appreciate Bam's performance against him to its true value.
No, I did appreciate that because I think Sonny Edwards was a tough fight. I just think leading up to it, there were so many questions about Bam because of how he fought against Christian Hernandez, but that was a fight that he got injured in, if I'm not mistaken.
Robin ain't talking about us though, so it's fine.
Yeah. But no, I agree. I think
But yeah,
Sonny Edwards fought a good fight in that fight. Like Sonny Edwards is a tough fight. And
he
so
won today too.
yeah, and so when I take a look at Bam's resume and we talk about pound for pound, Sonny Edwards is one of the reasons why I'm like, yeah, for sure, that's a great win on your resume. So that's why he's in the conversation on that pound for pound list because of wins like Sonny Edwards. So Robin B31, definitely agree with you there.
I am PK13. Does anyone else want to ban rematch clauses in championship fights? I think I think they should be reserved for like Juan Francisco Estrada deserves it because you're the lineal champion, you're the best in the division. Like if you're somebody like that, sure. If you're Liam Paro, who just beat Subriel Matias, I don't think he should automatically get rematch clauses after just winning the title. I feel like you need to maybe defend it a certain amount of times. And it also depends like who you are in terms of stature.
Oh no, Liam Paro beat Subriel in Puerto Rico. Gives him a little bit of leeway to get that rematch clause. Like that's
The
not an
pro- the
easy fight.
problem the
But I
problem
get what
is
you're trying to say.
yeah,
Yeah.
because it stops the weight class. You know what I mean? Like this is the problem that, and we just got a rematch in UFC 303 tonight. But this is like I feel like in UFC in particular, not all of MMA, but we're just getting a lot of rematches lately. And to me, it can get a little stale. Tonight's exciting knockout notwithstanding, but yeah, I don't need rematches for every single championship fight. I absolutely do not.
So when you take a look at the 115-pound weight class, of course, they're going to have that rematch with El Gallo. But after that is done, let's just say, hypothetically, Bam beats him again after this performance. I expect El Gallo to
We'll
come
probably
back looking better.
yeah.
Because he's not going to have the same layoff, right? But I mean, the speed was a factor. I think youthfulness was a factor. There were a lot of factors in this fight. But nonetheless, say hypothetically, because we have to do this, because let's give respect to Estrada here. Let's say Bam beats him again at 115 pounds. Does he move up after to 118? And do you think we get the Nakatani fight?
He said he wanted the winner. Damn, what was the fight that he was talking about? It was Martinez. I think it was Martinez's fight. But he said that if there wasn't going to be a rematch with Juan Francisco Estrada, that he would be willing to fight the winner of Martinez and somebody else. And I'm blanking right now on what the fight was. So somebody in the comments could help me. But I ultimately don't see why he can't move up. But I feel like, if he's comfortable just defending his title there, he hasn't, like, he's already won in this weight class. So it's kind of unique. But yeah, I have no problem with him moving up, especially because in the lighter weight classes, you have a smaller difference. Like, part of the reason Manny Pacquiao was able to win so many different weight classes was because he started like damn near at the bottom and was able to work his way up 3 pounds at a time. There you go, VSA. Got it. um, I think Bam Rodriguez, though, like, he's going to be able to do whatever he wants if he beats Estrada again, is the point. Now, if we're playing devil's advocate and continuing to do this, Estrada wins that fight, yeah, we have to get a trilogy. Like, we just have to.
Yeah, and I think it's set up for that as well because I think everyone would want to see a trilogy, but El Gallo has got to come with something a little bit better. Bam looked like he was on a different level than I've ever seen him. And when we talk about the pound for pound list, because of this performance, because he has Juan Francisco Estrada officially on his list and not by unanimous decision, he has him by seventh round knockout. He has officially entered the chat on the pound for pound list for me when you take a look at the guys that he's beaten. And this is a young guy that's 24 years old. He's fighting in arenas in Phoenix, he's selling out crowds. And I think he has superstar written all over him. I think Bam Rodriguez is earning his way to be one of the faces of boxing.
He's selling out bigger arenas than Teofimo Lopez.